husband and I will be coming home for New Year's, so you better make sure everything is prepared, all right? You've been living comfortably at the in-laws' place, so this is your chance to show some proper respect for us. Make sure we're really celebrated, okay?
Ah, I see. Yes, I understand. Please take care on your journey home. Celebrated, you say? Understood. I'll do my best to make it as enjoyable as I can within my abilities.
Of course. That's only natural, isn't it? Let's see, what would be good? Oh, I know. I want something expensive and delicious. So why don't you get us some high-quality sushi? I don't feel like putting in the effort to chat with the in-laws, so at least make sure there's something good to eat so I can actually enjoy myself.
Is that really something you should say like that? Well, I do sense that you prefer to keep your distance from your in-laws.
Duh! Why wouldn't I? My wife would find dealing with the in-laws a pain, don't you think? Especially me, since I'm the wife of the eldest son. My position is different from yours. Everyone's always expecting something from me. And don't even get me started on the pressure they put on me to hurry up and have kids. It's a pain, honestly.
Even so, I do understand that managing relationships with the in-laws can be tricky, but technically, the ones who should be living with the in-laws are you two. My husband and I are only living here because of that arrangement, to help out and keep them company. So, are you saying that knowing that?
Oh, really? Are you seriously complaining right now? Well, that's pretty low of you. You're just like me, aren't you? You can't even judge me. You're exactly the same.
No, that's not really what I meant. You just called me out for supposedly living comfortably off the in-laws. So if that's how you feel, wouldn't you rather switch places and let us move out?
What? You guys just got married not too long ago, right? And you're already complaining? Come on, you're not in the same position as me. If you can't handle it, then it's even harder for me. You're the type who tries to push the work you don't like onto others, aren't you?
What are you talking about? Are you sure you're not the one projecting here?
I get it. Living with the in-laws is awful, isn't it? But I hate it more than you do, so don't even try to shove it onto me, all right?
What makes you think that's even appropriate?
And besides, it's true you've got it pretty cozy, don't you? All you have to do is split the chores with Mother, isn't that right?
That's not what I'm saying. I have to consider their needs and feelings too. Since you'll be visiting, shouldn't you be the one to communicate your preferences directly? I would appreciate it if you could let me know personally what you'd like to eat.
Huh? That's such a hassle. Isn't it extra work? You live there, don't you? All you need to do is pass along a quick message.
Well, that's true, but that's really not what I meant.
So annoying. I was thrilled to have a sister-in-law who I could have take care of everything for me. But if you're going to be so difficult about it, could you not? You're really starting to get on my nerves. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So I'll leave it in your hands now. I'm looking forward to it. Bye.
Wait, hold on. Fine, I understand.
Is this really the welcome I get after coming all the way back for New Year's? Just looking at this meal. Ugh. It's cheap, and it looks like it's meant for a charity soup kitchen, not a celebration. Honestly, did you even listen to what I wanted? I specifically asked for something upscale and impressive.
Wait a second. Bella, we thought you'd be arriving later in the day, so we're out picking up some extra things right now. I didn't know you'd be here so early.
Yes, well, I managed to get an earlier train and thought it would be nice to surprise you all by showing up early. But apparently, that was a mistake. I walked into the kitchen and what do I see? This pathetic display of hand-rolled sushi and scraps. I threw it all out for your information. I mean, really, did you think I was going to eat that?
Wait, you threw it out? Do you realize how much work I put into making that? Those were hand-rolled sushi pieces, Bella. I bought fresh ingredients from the best local fish market, And I even had my in-laws come over to help with the preparation. I thought you'd appreciate a homemade meal for once instead of the usual takeout.
Oh, spare me the sob story, Leanne. Hand-rolled sushi. That's not what I wanted. I expected sushi from a reputable restaurant, not some amateur attempt. Homemade food like that, it's insulting. How could you expect me to eat something that looks like leftovers? Next time, follow my instructions instead of going off on your little creative projects.
All right, Bella, that's enough. You've taken things way too far this time. Throwing away something Leanne prepared for you? That's not just rude, it's outright disrespectful. You're treating us like we're your servants.
Excuse me? And who do you think you are, taking Leanne's phone to lecture me like I'm a child? I was just expressing my disappointment. It's only food. There's no need for this drama.
It's not only food, it's the effort, the time, and the thought that went into it. Leanne worked hard to make something nice for you, and you just threw it in the trash like it was worthless. I'm not even sure you understand how much this hurt her. Our parents are furious. They're saying they've had enough of your entitlement, and they're ready to cut ties with you for good.
What? Are you kidding me? They're mad at me over a little misunderstanding about a meal. That's ridiculous. And cut ties with me. I don't believe you.
Oh, I'm serious. Our parents have had it with your attitude, and this was the last straw. They're talking about severing ties with you entirely. And I've spoken to your husband too. He's fully aware of what's going on, and frankly, he agrees with them.
Severed ties? This is absurd. You all are overreacting. I never asked for hand-rolled sushi. You're the one who went out of your way to make it. And since when do parents side with their daughter-in-law over their own child? It's not like Leanne is even a real part of this family.
Bella, maybe you should reevaluate your assumptions. I am very much part of this family. And on top of that, I'm also a key shareholder in the family business. The one where your husband works, in case you forgot. My position gives me significant influence, and after hearing about what you've done, our parents have decided it might be time for some changes. They're considering letting your husband go from his position in the company.
You're joking. You can't be serious. You're going to jeopardize our livelihood over some food. This has gone too far. Do you have any idea what this would mean for us?
Actions have consequences, Bella. If you're willing to throw out an entire meal we prepared out of spite, then maybe you don't deserve the benefits that come with being part of this family. And yes, your husband has been calling, pleading for forgiveness, but he's the one who's married to you, so he'll have to deal with the fallout.
I can't believe this. This is a nightmare. You're talking about completely ruining my life over something that should have been a simple family disagreement. And you, using your influence like this, it's petty and cruel.
It's only cruel if you didn't earn it. And frankly, Bella, you've brought this upon yourself. You treat everyone around you as if they exist to serve you, without considering their feelings or the consequences of your actions. Maybe this is the wake-up call you need.
You're my sister-in-law. Family doesn't treat each other like this, especially over something as trivial as a meal. I'm a stay-at-home wife. I rely on my husband's income to support us. How am I supposed to survive if you destroy that?
Well, perhaps it's time you start thinking about contributing. You could consider finding part-time work. There are no children for you to take care of, so it's just you and your husband. If he loses his job, maybe you'll need to step up and help.
Are you listening to yourself? I can't just go out and get a job. I've never had a job. I went straight from college into my marriage with Daniel. This wasn't the life I was prepared for.
Then you'll have to adapt. No one is responsible for carrying you, Bella. Not anymore. If you want the perks of being in this family, maybe you should start respecting the people in it.
I can't believe this. This isn't how family is supposed to act. We're supposed to support each other and not throw each other out over petty disagreements.
Support only goes so far. And as you've proven, you don't exactly treat people with respect. Maybe we've supported you too much, letting you think you could behave this way without any consequences. But I think that's about to change.
You can't seriously be doing this. I'm going to talk to Daniel about this right now. He wouldn't let this happen. He'll take my side.
Feel free to try. But he's already aware of the situation, and he's expressed that he's been fed up with your behavior as well. This isn't just about today. It's about a pattern of disrespect you've shown everyone in this family. He's even said that he's considering divorce if it comes to that.
Divorce? Daniel would never. We've been married for years. He wouldn't just leave me over something like this.
I think he's finally realized he doesn't have to put up with your behavior. He deserves a better life than being married to someone who treats everyone around her like they're beneath her. And for him, the decision is already made. The family, including Daniel, has decided to step back if this is how you choose to behave.
You're all insane. I've given my life to this family, and now, because of one little argument, you're all willing to throw me out like I'm nothing?
It's not one little argument, Bella. It's about years of entitlement and disrespect that everyone has tolerated for far too long. The family has finally decided that enough is enough.
This is unbelievable. I refuse to be treated like this. I'll find a way to fix this. Daniel and I will talk, and I'll get him to see reason. He'll understand.
Good luck with that. But even if he does, you'll find that you've lost the respect of everyone else here. Whatever you do next, Bella, I hope it serves as a reality check.
Leanne, I truly apologize for everything that happened the other day. I never imagined that Bella would do something so completely unreasonable. Recently, she had been acting a little too self-confident, but I never thought it would escalate to something like this.
I see. Well, I was certainly shocked, and yes, it was wasteful with the ingredients. But in all honesty, I don't think it's fair to place all the blame on you. I know you as someone who is sensible and reasonable. Even when we were out shopping for the ingredients, we had planned to meet up here. However, Bella, as usual, didn't want to put in the effort and decided to go to my in-laws' house on her own. I heard she opened a bottle of wine, sat back, and relaxed, completely ignoring everyone else. I can tell you, even my husband, who's usually a very patient and understanding person, couldn't help but laugh at the situation.
Yeah, even my brother, who's normally quite composed, just couldn't hold it in. But honestly, I get it now. Bella has always been a bit of a strong-willed person, but I never imagined her behavior would spiral to such extremes. It's honestly quite shocking.
By the way, Daniel, I'd appreciate it if you didn't use such formal speech with me. You don't have to suddenly become so distant.
No. I feel that I should take some responsibility in this too. If I had done a better job of communicating with you and properly explaining things, then maybe Bella wouldn't have acted out in such a disrespectful way. Honestly, up until now, I've been seeing her only as a younger sister, and maybe that's what led her to think she could get away with this kind of behavior. I never expected her to take such liberties, thinking that because she's my sister-in-law, she also has a certain level of power in the company. As you know, she's a major shareholder.
I'm surprised you even consider that. Honestly, I feel even more embarrassed now. I'm so sorry about everything. So, after all that, how did things go between you two?
Well, we got divorced, obviously. She came to me crying and apologizing, begging for my forgiveness. But the truth is, nothing she said really got through to me. At that point, I had already made up my mind.
I see. But Daniel, are you sure you're okay with this decision? I mean, I understand that it's difficult to work with someone like Bella, especially when she's such a significant shareholder in your company. But this decision, well, it's also a hard one for your in-laws, don't you think? I mean, they basically gave her an ultimatum. If you don't divorce him, you're out of the company.
I understand, and I'm really at peace with this decision. The truth is, I've been growing tired of Bella for a long time now. There are things she did that I couldn't overlook, and I found out she had been betraying me. I spent some time gathering evidence, and when I finally confronted her with it, everything came to light.
What? Betraying you? What are you talking about? How could she betray you?
You'd be shocked if I told you. Turns out she had been having an affair behind my back. I had suspicions, but I never had any concrete proof until recently. You know how she can be with people, charming and persuasive, but underneath it all, she's been playing both sides.
I can't believe it. An affair? After all this time?
Yes, and it's not just that. I also found out that she had been spending company money irresponsibly. I kept trying to ignore it, thinking it was just one mistake after another, but I couldn't turn a blind eye to it anymore. She kept pretending that everything was fine and even came to me asking for forgiveness, but I had already made up my mind. She wasn't the person I thought she was.
But Daniel, I can't imagine how hard this must be for you. After everything you've been through, this must be devastating. How do you even begin to cope with something like this?
It's definitely difficult, but sometimes you have to face the truth, no matter how hard it is. I realized that if I kept letting her walk over me, nothing would change. Her marriage was falling apart, and I couldn't allow myself to be in that situation anymore. I deserve better, and so does she. She needs to face the consequences of her actions.
I can understand. But are you sure there's no way to salvage anything between you two? I mean, you've been together for so long, right?
It's hard to say, but I'm certain. I don't think there's any going back from this. It's been a long time coming, and the damage has already been done. And I try to be patient. I try to forgive. But this betrayal is something I can't just sweep under the rug.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that serious. But Daniel, don't you think this will affect everything? Your family, your work, the company itself?
Of course, I've thought about that. I've considered the fallout from all of this. But in the end, I know it's for the best. I don't want to live in a lie anymore, and I don't want to be with someone who doesn't value me. Maybe it's harsh, but I think this is the right choice for my own well-being and future.
I see. I don't know what to say. I just never expected any of this. I thought things were going well between you two.
To be honest, I thought the same for a long time. But the truth always comes out, doesn't it? It's just a matter of time.
And hopefully, when the truth does come out of her, we'll be able to deal with her once and for all. I'm sure this wasn't the outcome you wanted from something like this on a day like this, but we'll just know that I'll always have your side in all of this. And if there's anything you need me to do down the road, just ask.
Thank you, Leanne. It means a lot to me hearing that from you. Like I was saying, in due time, we'll figure out what's really going on in that woman's head.
Absolutely.
I do want you to be aware of one other thing, though, with Bella. If things really do go further south with her than we are both expecting, can you make sure to help me cut ties to her as well?
I'm sure that a divorce will be able to do that just fine, right?
I know, and it should. But with a woman like her, there's no telling what she'll do when the divorce really does take place. She could turn into a crazed stalker for all we know. I'm sure the only one strong enough to deal with something like that would be you.
If that does end up happening, then I'll help you deal with it. But for the time being, let's just wait and see what happens.
Alright, thank you.
I am truly sorry for everything that happened during this trip. I can't express enough how much I apologize. Please, I'm begging you. Could you talk to my husband and ask him to forgive me?
You're no longer his wife, right? So what's the point of all of this? Why are you coming to me now? I already told you that I won't interfere with your relationship. So asking me to do something about it now, there's really nothing I can do.
I never thought it would come to a divorce. I really didn't expect this at all.
And on top of all that, the fact that you were having an affair with another man was exposed, and now you're being asked to pay alimony. I can't believe it. And now, after all that, you've come to me pleading for help?
Wait, you knew about all of this? If you already knew, then it would have been much easier to talk about, wouldn't it? I mean, I've been struggling with my own issues, being a stay-at-home wife. I've been going through a lot, and I just wanted to escape for a while. I wanted to spend some time with someone else, to have a little fun, to feel alive for once. But I promise I won't do it again, I swear. Please, I'm begging you. Could you say something to him for me? Could you ask him to at least forgive me?
What exactly should I ask him? It seems like you're trying to get me to side with you as if I'd understand what you're going through, just because I'm a woman. But I'm not like you. I don't share that same way of thinking. I'm not a stay-at-home wife anymore. I work hard every day. I don't have the time or energy to look at other men. I'm far too busy with my own life to even think about that.
But please, don't say that. You've been divorced, and now that you have to support yourself on your own, how are you going to do that? You've never had to do that before, have you? And now, on top of all this, you're facing a lawsuit for alimony. I can only imagine how terrible this must be for you.
This is just too ridiculous. You've never really worked hard for anything in your life, have you? You had the nerve to throw away the sushi ingredients that someone else worked hard to buy and prepare, only to demand that I provide you with high-end sushi? Are you seriously out of your mind? What exactly did you think you were entitled to?
Well, It's because my husband was the one making the money. That's why I got to eat whatever I wanted and had all the nice things. I wasn't the one working for it, but he was.
But let me remind you, you're not someone with any real skills of your own. And this is the result of that grand misunderstanding of yours, isn't it? You got carried away thinking you were something you weren't. And now look at you. If only you had been more humble. If you had been grateful for what you had instead of demanding more, you could have lived a much more peaceful, fulfilling life. But no, you let your delusions of grandeur get the best of you. And now look at where it's gotten you.
I've already apologized, though. I've said sorry a million times. I'm doing everything I can to make up for it. So please, I'm begging you, talk to him. Say something. At least send me some money. Anything.
Well, the reality you've been avoiding is finally here. You're standing on the path you've tried so hard to avoid, while others have worked tirelessly to walk that very same path. But someone like you, who has no concept of real work or struggle, will probably never experience anything like the luxury you had before. No more high-end sushi for you. No more easy days. You need to wake up and realize that the life you've been pretending to lead doesn't suit you. It never did. Get real and stop living in denial. To begin with, I had always known that Bella's attitude was problematic. At first, I told myself it was a phase, something that everyone goes through at some point in their lives. We all go through rough patches, right? Everyone has moments of frustration where they act out of character. I didn't want to judge her too quickly, especially since we were friends, and I had seen the better side of her at one point. Bella was the kind of person who could charm you effortlessly. She had this way about her that made you feel like you were the most important person in the world whenever she was around. It was disarming, almost magical. And for a long time, I believed in that charm. I wanted to believe it was the real Bella. But as time went on, that illusion started to fade. It wasn't an overnight shift. It was gradual, like a slow burn. Little by little, I started to notice things that didn't add up. The way she treated Daniel, her husband, was the first big clue. It was subtle at first, just little things that seemed off. A comment here, a dismissive glance there, a way of shutting him down when he tried to express his feelings. Bella had a knack for making him feel small, making him question his worth. I couldn't believe it at first because Daniel had always been that kind of person who seemed to have everything under control. He was charming, generous, and genuinely kind-hearted. Yet Bella, none of those qualities seemed to matter. She took him for granted, disregarded his emotions, and used his love for her as a tool for manipulation. For a while, I thought I was just being paranoid. I didn't want to believe that someone like Bella, whom I had known for years, could be so cold and calculating. But the more I saw, the more I realized that my suspicions were not unfounded. Bella wasn't just going through a tough time. She was treating Daniel with increasing contempt. Every time he tried to speak up about the relationship, about the things that were bothering him, she would laugh it off. If he brought up a concern, she would dismiss it as insignificant. She would tell him he was being too sensitive or that he was overthinking things. She would always turn the blame on him, making him feel like the problem wasn't her behavior, but his reaction to it. It wasn't long before Daniel started to change. He wasn't the same man I had known before. The spark in his eyes had faded, and his once jovial demeanor was replaced by a quiet resignation. He would still laugh at jokes, still go through the motions of life, but there was an emptiness behind his smile. It was as if he was just going through the motions, trying to survive each day, but not really living. I could see that the weight of his marriage was wearing him down. I had never seen him so tired, so defeated. He wasn't the same person anymore, and it hurt to watch. I tried to talk to him about it, of course. As his friend, it was hard for me to stand by and watch him suffer without doing anything. But whenever I brought it up, he would deflect. He would say something like, "It's just a phase, man. She's going through a lot right now." Or, "I'm sure it'll get better, just give it time." He didn't want to admit it, not even to himself. He was still holding on to the hope that things would improve, that Bella would change. He didn't want to believe that his marriage was falling apart, that the person he had trusted and loved for so long could be so toxic. It was heartbreaking to watch because I knew that deep down, he didn't believe any of it. He was just too afraid to face the truth. He didn't want to face the reality that Bella wasn't the person he thought she was. But the longer he stayed in the marriage, the more apparent it became that nothing was going to change. Bella was who she was, and no amount of hope or effort on Daniel's part was going to alter that fact. The situation reached a boiling point when Daniel finally reached his limit. I'm not sure what exactly triggered it, but I remember the day he came to me, his face pale and drawn. He was quiet, but there was a certain determination in his eyes that I hadn't seen before. He wasn't angry, he was just resolute. I could tell he had made a decision. He wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. He had finally come to terms with the fact that his marriage was over, and he was going to do something about it. At that point, Daniel had already begun quietly gathering evidence, documenting Bella's behavior, noting the times she had been deceitful, manipulative, and emotionally abusive. I don't think he had intended to do it at first. I think it was just a way for him to convince himself that he wasn't overreacting. But there was something more to his feelings than just resentment. But as he began to gather more and more evidence, it became undeniable. His marriage was toxic, and Bella wasn't the person he had hoped she was. I'll never forget the day he told me. We were sitting at the same cafe where we'd spent countless afternoons, talking about everything and nothing. He looked at me with a calmness I hadn't seen before, and simply said, "I'm filing for divorce." There was no anger in his voice, no bitterness, just a quiet resolve. It was like he had finally accepted that his marriage was over, and now it was time to move on. He wasn't even looking for sympathy or validation. He just needed to tell someone, to make it real. The decision wasn't easy for him, of course. Divorce is never easy. It's a messy, painful process, and I could tell it weighed heavily on him. But at the same time, I could see the relief in his eyes. It was like a burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He had finally made the choice to put himself first, to stop sacrificing his own happiness for someone who would never appreciate it. It was a brave decision, one that he should have made years ago, but I knew that he had finally come to the realization that his happiness mattered too. As expected, Bella's reaction was explosive. She was blindsided, of course. She had never expected Daniel to actually go through with it. She had spent years manipulating him, making him believe that he was the problem, that he was the one who needed to change. She had convinced him to accept blame for everything that went wrong in their relationship. But now, suddenly, she was the one who was being held accountable, and she couldn't handle it. She tried everything to get Daniel to change his mind. She played the victim, of course. She cried, she begged, she promised that she would change. She told him that she was sorry, that she had been stressed out and wasn't thinking clearly. But Daniel had heard it all before. He had heard the promises, the apologies, the tears, and he knew they were empty. He had reached a point where he simply couldn't believe her anymore. He had given her chance after chance, but each time she had disappointed him. There was nothing left to salvage. In the end, Bella's desperation led to Daniel's family. She showed up uninvited, thinking that if she could win them over, they might change Daniel's mind. But it was too late for that. Daniel's family had seen through her act long ago. They had watched as she tore Daniel down over the years, and they weren't about to let her manipulate them too. They had no sympathy for her. They weren't interested in her apologies or her tears. All they wanted was to protect Daniel, to make sure he was okay. Bella must have realized at that moment that she had lost. She had nowhere else to turn. Her reputation was in tatters, and the people she had once used to manipulate Daniel were no longer on her side. She had no power left. In a last-ditch effort, she resorted to begging. She fell to her knees, crying and apologizing for everything she had done. But her pleas were ignored. Daniel's family didn't want to hear it anymore. They had seen enough. The situation escalated from there. When Bella refused to leave, when she continued to cry and beg for forgiveness, Daniel's family had no choice but to call the police. They couldn't allow her to disrupt their lives any longer. And so, Bella was escorted away by the authorities. her face streaked with tears and her pride shattered. It must have been a humiliating experience for her, but it was also the wake-up call she needed. The life she had built on lies and manipulation had finally caught up with her. I don't know what happened to Bella after that. I heard rumors that she left town and that she disappeared somewhere in search of a new start, but I imagine that it wasn't an easy transition for her. She had spent so many years manipulating everyone around her, and now she had no one left to manipulate. The consequences of her actions had finally caught up with her, and she would have to face them whether she was ready or not. As for Daniel, well, I think the divorce was the best thing that could have happened for him. It was a hard, painful process, but it was also a liberating one. He had finally taken control of his life, and he was starting to rebuild himself. It was no longer the defeated, broken man he had once been. He was free. Looking back on it all, I can't help but feel a sense of justice. Bella had been given every chance to change, but she had squandered them all. She had treated Daniel with cruelty, and now she had to face the consequences. The reality that had been waiting for her all along had finally caught up with her. It wasn't easy for her, but sometimes reality has a way of putting things into perspective. And I think Bella finally understood that.